everybody, it is Friday, finally. We just wrapped up that series on panoramic photography. I sure hope you guys found something interesting there and enjoyed it, maybe picked up a few tips, and most importantly, maybe, just maybe, it made you want to get out and try something a little different with your camera that you maybe haven't done. I want to just use today as a kind of new format that I'm planning on doing with my Friday videos, and that's kind of what I'm calling at this time a Friday free-for-all. So let's talk about a couple things real quick. With the panoramic photo stuff, just like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Look forward to some more topic themed type of series coming up in the future. I do have a couple viewer suggestions, I guess you'd say, that people wanted to know a little bit more about, so I'm going to start diving into those. But I do ask you guys for a favor, and that is to make sure if you have something on your mind you'd want to see a little more about, or you want to hear me talk about a little more, even if it's something I have no clue about at this time, I'm more than willing to kind of jump in with you guys and do a little research and see if we can learn together, because ultimately I want to make sure that when we're doing these videos it is for the right reason, and that is to kind of help pay it forward, help others out who may be struggling or may be curious about something, and to continue to grow and expand my skill set as well as a photographer. So they always say there's no better way to learn something than by teaching it. So let's dive in. Hit me up any way you can in the comments here, Twitter, Instagram, my Facebook group, you name it. It's all there linked up below, and send me those questions or ideas, anything you'd like to see me cover in future series, and we'll dive into that. Now, I don't want to get too heavy into the photo topics series portion of things right now. I really want to make sure that as it's Friday, you guys are getting set to have a good weekend, and we've just wrapped up a pretty in-depth session about this panoramic photo stuff, and so we're going to give our brains a little bit of a chance to relax. And with that in mind, I want to urge you to, while you're out shooting, or if you're in the car traveling, or whatever the case might be this time of year, I'm going to give you a couple suggestions on a few podcasts that I really, really enjoy and that I feel are well worth your time, and they're not all photographically related. Now, number one, the first thing I want to talk about, I did post about it yesterday on Facebook, but I had a call, or I should say more accurately, a series of Twitter messages on Wednesday evening. I got home, I was out taking care of some Christmas shopping for my wife. I set my phone down while I was hiding the gifts all over the house, and couldn't figure out why my phone was buzzing at a little after 10 at night, and I joked online that the bat signal was put up, and I guess that makes me Batman, although I don't know, I'm a pretty nerdy Batman. But my good friends Sid and Mac over at the Shutter Time podcast were in need of a last-minute guest on their show they were recording, which is going to drop Monday. The guest they had in line, scheduling conflicts came up or whatever happened, and so they thought of me, and I was more than happy. I was very honored to be able to join them again on the Shutter Time podcast, and it was a really, really fun conversation. I know they were a little worried because things got a little heated, things got a little spicy between the two of them as far as the topic they talked about, and for me, I thought it was great. It was excellent to see a couple different viewpoints and interject some thoughts of my own into that. So Monday, this coming Monday, and I'll make sure and post up links when it goes live, but as of Monday, the new episode of Shutter Time with Sid and Mac will go live, where I join them once again to talk about a pretty fun little photography topic. And so that kind of brings us into my number one podcast recommendation for this week. Of course, as always, that would have to be Shutter Time with Sid and Mac. I've said it before, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face and they bury me in the ground, but Shutter Time with Sid and Mac is by far my favorite, and quite honestly right now it's the only podcast that's photography related that I really make sure and listen to every single time there's a new episode that drops. So I urge you guys, do me a favor, go subscribe on iTunes or in your favorite podcast listener, whether it's Stitcher or Overcast or wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure you subscribe and set up your podcast player to automatically grab those new episodes from Shutter Time, because it is a just absolutely entertaining, absolutely educational, and wonderful conversations that happen. And Sid and Mac are two of the most genuine people I've ever met. They are absolutely amazing, and I can't thank them enough for asking me to be on their show once again. It really is a huge honor from somebody like me in small town northern Minnesota who is a relative nobody when it comes to being known in the photography community. I mean, these guys have interviewed some pretty big name photographers who are just amazing, and it still blows my mind that they first off asked me to even come on the show in the first place, and secondly asked me back again, and have enjoyed those conversations. So hopefully you guys like those as well. I look forward to being able to come back with them anytime they want me. And so I told them my motto when it comes to Shutter Time and being willing to be a guest with them on their show is that for me, anytime is Shutter Time. So that's my cheesy catch line for them. But in all seriousness, check out Shutter Time, subscribe to that, especially if you're going to be out shooting and you're doing things like that. You'll find it both engaging and interesting and entertaining, and it'll make you want to get your camera and take some pictures for yourself, and you'll be entertained while you do it. So number one recommendation, Shutter Time. Number two, a couple non-photography related podcasts that I religiously follow. The first of the non-photography podcasts would be Tell 'em Steve Dave. It's I don't know if you'd say a pop culture type of podcast, kind of comedy. It's three guys. They're all good friends, and they sit around and just shoot the breeze. And it is so much fun to listen to. These guys are a real riot. I mean, they're so much fun to listen to as they're bantering back and forth. They're tackling, whatever news stories are out or just random topics. Tell 'em Steve Dave is absolutely amazing. It is Brian Johnson and Walter Flanagan from AMC's Comic Book Man and Brian Quinn from True TV's Impractical Jokers series. And the three of them just have an amazing show that I've listened to for many, many years. The next one, well, there's actually two that fall into this category, and I'll leave you with these so I can wrap this up and get back to work. But if you're interested in hearing about history and folklore and myth, all of those kinds of things, there's a podcast that's called Lore, Lore, and it dives into a lot of these old-time, legends and stories and things like that, and it talks a little bit about kind of where did those stories come from and what brought those around. And it's really sometimes a little dark, but in a good way, where they talk about, for example, a topic of changelings, in European history, and how, people back in those days, they didn't have a way to really explain, a birth defect in a child, for example, or something like that. And so in their mind, there must have been something supernatural happening. Lore, fantastic stories behind some of the old legends and myths and things we've heard. In that same vein, and I apologize guys, it's getting colder by the second here, but in that same vein, I just discovered this week a podcast that's called Myths and Legends. Kind of a similar theme, but it's a very much more upbeat and storytelling kind of podcast where the host of the show will take these old legends and folklore and myths and things like that and basically retell those stories, telling you the real story about what was going on, but in today's language and making it modern and fun. And they're smaller. They're about 25 minutes to 30 minutes long. Really easy to listen to, but they're super fun to listen to. The first 3 episodes, for example, he breaks down a story of one of the knights of King Arthur's Round Table and some of the adventures he went on, along with some commentary and things like that. So really a fun time. So that's a couple good suggestions on some podcasts you can listen to. Again, Shutter Time, which the new episode with me on it again will be hitting live Monday, but you can listen to the previous episode, which was my debut appearance with them, and give that a listen, see what you think. The Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast, which is just a fun time, very entertaining, comedy, lots of laughs. You'll really enjoy yourself in that one. And then, of course, Lore and Myths and Legends. So with that, I'm going to get going back to work. You guys take care. Stay warm. If the weather's going to be nasty where you're at, keep those batteries nice and warm so you can stay out shooting for even longer. You guys take care. Have a great day. and a great weekend, and I will talk to you Monday.